everyone. Dale Parrish. Welcome to COS today. Dale Parrish, your host for this evening, along with my co-host, Mr. Ken Kashuba, State Communications Coordinator for the state of Indiana. Ken, now we're both folks. We're both located in Indiana, and I'm high and dry up in the northeastern corner of Indiana. But Ken, you're down in Indianapolis. Are you underwater?
I'm where all the action is, but I'm not. I'm not underwater. I'm about 7 or 8 miles from a portion of the White River, and yeah, I'm on a slab first of all, and our whole neighborhood is there's no flooding in our neighborhood, but wow.
Really? Okay. Evidently, there's been some bad flooding down in central part of Indiana.
Well, Hazeldale Parkway, which is in Fishers, bridge collapsed there, and there's a lot of people just a little southwest of me in a little place called Broad Ripple or Rocky Ripple. It's a section that they get. It doesn't take much really to flood some of them that are living on the river there, and they're just devastated. But
yeah.
They're all vowing to come back one day too. They like the neighborhood, and
yeah.
Wow, it's a shame.
Yeah, it's too bad. And you don't hear that very often here in Indiana.
No, and they're calling it historic. Obviously, the 100 years, in this local area. So
yeah. Well, I think we're pretty well high and dry up here. I guess there's been some. Of course, we have rivers. 3 rivers, as a matter of fact. So there's some low areas that got some water.
I saw another astonishing thing. I know this is, it's a hot topic tonight, but I saw another astonishing thing. There is an area just on the other side of the river where it's a quarry, and they basically are, they're pulling rock and stuff out of there for tar and everything else that they make out of there, and one portion of the river actually broke through and started flowing backwards, and it's actually filling this quarry.
Oh.
It looks like waterfalls going into this quarry. It's amazing. I don't, but to see this river actually flowing backwards.
Wow.
It's unheard of.
Wow. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Well, our show, folks, is saving the country with Convention Estates. That's our motto. That's what we're trying to do. Saving the country with Convention Estates. That's what we're coming to you tonight. I don't show this very often, but Ken, this is broadcast number 361. And Ken, you've been on board for 219 of those. So we're getting some very impressive numbers there, aren't we?
Yeah, it's hard to believe that it's put down that many shows. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, Dale.
Yes, and it's not over. It's not over. We got a long ride ahead of us. Long ride. Well, we're going to introduce a new segment. We've revised. We introduced this segment some weeks ago, and then decided that we were going to revise it and go a different way with it. So we're gonna present the revised version to you tonight. It's called "Are You Serious?" And so, how do we explain this, Ken? We're going to present to you clips and videos, short videos, right, of situations where. I don't know. Maybe they could be TDS, Trump derangement syndrome videos. They could be some other type of video of just something that's just unbelievable. Just, in other words, are you serious? Okay.
Well, I think it's things that when you see them, and obviously, our social media is loaded with them, but it's things that make you scratch your head. Normal people scratch their head and say, are you serious, or what's going on, or
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got one for you tonight, and we're going to kick it off with this one. I think you're going to enjoy this. Maybe you've seen it. It's been out there, I guess, out on YouTube and some probably some other outlets. But let's go ahead and play it. All right. Are you serious?
You want a tip
Do you
or not?
understand who this guy is that you're wearing? This guy, this disgusting pig that you're wearing?
Ladies,
Sir.
I suggest you take a breath
No, I
and
suggest-
relax because
I'm
this
gonna-
is
you're
just
not
an
gonna-
Uber ride, and I take offense to you telling me what to wear and what not to wear in my own house
Sir,
or own
do you
car.
not care about
Okay.
guests? We're paying. Do you
We
want
are
a
paying
tip?
you,
Do
sir.
you want it to? Do you want 5 stars? Because we'll leave you 0 stars if you can't accommodate my.
No, just pull over because you are.
And look, we're in the middle of the road. You want me to pull over?
I don't understand why you
I
can't
don't
just
care.
take the hat off. Like, I don't understand what. Like, it's really that hard for you to just. Take
I
the
support
hat
my
off.
president.
It's okay, Mom. It's okay. You're making her upset. Do you not care that you're making my mother cry right
Take
now?
that hat off now or just pull over on your
Seriously.
Please pull over.
I'm not gonna pull.
Take your freaking hat
Take
off.
that hat off
Okay?
now. I'm recording you.
Seriously.
Now I'm gonna pull over to
Pull
call
over
the
up
cops.
here. Pull over.
That's called assault. You should not be
I don't care.
touching
We're
me.
getting out. Pull over.
Getting out. Pull over. No.
Pull
All right, can I at least pull over in a
Sir,
safe
yes.
spot?
Yes, sir. Jeez.
Do you know who the pig is? The hat that you're wearing.
This is
Do you know who
ridiculous.
that guy is?
Don't even waste
Do you
your
know the
breath,
things
Mom.
he's done to this planet and ruined things?
It's okay,
You
Mom.
have
Okay,
any
ladies.
idea
It's
who
okay.
this
Let's get
guy
out of
is?
here. That's it.
hope-
I'm reporting you.
I hope you have a better day because
Well, folks, if you didn't get a good look at his hat, it was a Trump hat, right? Make America Great Again hat.
Yeah. You know what kills me, Dale? Do you hear in the part in the beginning? We're paying you, so therefore we can tell you what you can wear, where you can drive, and how how to get there. It's like we're paying you.
Yeah, it's well, that's our initial kickoff for Are You Serious, folks? So more to come, and I think there's plenty of them out there just like that that we'll be able to bring to you. So
I hope they look back on that in about 6 months and say, "What are we thinking?"
that was very good, very good. Okay. We want Maringo Mike to give you a little reminder on liking our program. So let's bring on Maringo Mike here for just a brief announcement that he has.
The program, please be sure and hit the like and subscribe buttons along with the notifications bell so you'll always know when we go live. We appreciate your support and hope you'll join us on our mission to use the Constitution to save the Constitution. Now, back to the program.
Yep, that Maringo Mike, man, he always he never fails us. He knows exactly what to say, doesn't he?
Yeah, he sure does. Although I think we failed him last week. I think.
Yeah, we forgot to load him. We forgot to load him last week.
Forgot to open the door for him. Yeah.
Should we play him twice tonight, or no? We won't. We won't do
We'll
that.
do that.
Well, folks, this brings us to our first segment, and we call this the In Focus segment. This is where we bring on some valued guests that we have, and we each talk about what has caught our interest in the news locally, or I mean, and it could be a local situation, it could be regional, national, whatever it might be. But it's something that's caught your attention. In other words, what is your focus right now? So this has been a great segment for us. So let's get right into it, and let's start bringing on the guests that we have for us tonight. First one, David Copeland. Hello, David.
Hi, Dale. Ken.
Good to have you, Dave. David is the Convention of States State Director for the state of Kansas, state number 20 in our march to holding a Convention of States. So Glad to have you tonight, David. Hang on here and let me get the other two folks on. And this is Miss Debbie Stewart. Debbie has been a contributor for a long time on COS Today and a COS volunteer here in the state of Indiana. And finally, Mr. Gary Harbaugh, State Director for Convention of States here in Indiana. And been a long time contributor as well. And always got a nice hat on, I'll tell you. I threatened to start wearing a hat on this show, and I have yet to do it. So I did do it one time. I did it one time. I may start doing it again. So anyway, Debbie, I want to start with you, ladies first tonight. So why don't you tell us what's on your mind tonight?
Yeah, so this might be of interest to some moms and grandmas and maybe some dads and grandpas too. But so Trump just put out an executive order calling for more vaccine childhood flexibility and more research and fewer childhood vaccinations. So and he also said the MMR, which is measles, mumps, and rubella, he wants to split into 3 different vaccinations so they're not all put in the same vaccine. So that's one vaccine, but it's and you get 2 doses of that, the 3 things together when they're about 12 to 18 months maybe. And then I think they get it again, maybe 3, 4, or 5, somewhere in there. And there's been a lot of talk over the years of the MMR because it is so much in one vaccine. And I know there's a lot of conspiracy out there. There's a lot of medical reports. So I'm not going to, I can't, it's one of those things where you don't really know unless you're a doctor researching it, right? Or you've done enough of the research. But I will say that when my kids were younger, I had 2 people I knew, and both of them said the same thing. They took their little one for the second MMR at like 4 or 5 years old, and they came back a different kid. Like they were totally different. And then they were diagnosed, with some real issues.
Really?
So
Wow.
anyways, this is just a way to, instead of getting so many vaccinations at one time, spreading them out over a period of time for those little bodies to maybe handle all of the stuff that's being put in their body.
Mm.
So, and I know there's people who agree and there's people who totally disagree. The pediatricians are jumping forward and say, no, you can't do this. But it's very interesting. I went and looked at the CDC schedule. Now, this was done a couple months ago. So it was before he just put the executive order out. So manufacturers they don't even separate the MMR out. Like that would have to start being processed that way. Okay. But I went and looked the schedule from 0 to 6, from a newborn to 6. They get 29 doses of vaccinations from 0 to 6. Now, that's not including COVID or the yearly, annual, or biannual flu shot. Okay, so that's 29. And then when they're 7 to 18, they get about 8 or 10 more. And some of them, what Trump has said is, look, parents, you can make a decision. Like on COVID, this is not, everybody shouldn't get this. So you decide. And then he's also split out groups. I thought this was interesting. He has categories. All children should be immunized at this age of this certain vaccine. And then another category is some children should get this. Okay. And then the last category is parents or caregivers should talk to their healthcare provider to decide if this one is right for the child. So the COVID-19 on both the younger and the older is recommended to say, hey, parents, you need to decide whether your kid needs to get a COVID vaccine. Because the thing is when you add the 29, let's just say 29 plus 8, that gives us 36, 35, 37, 37. 37, but then add a flu shot and a COVID shot for 18 to 20 years. That's 40 more. And some doctors require 2 flu shots a year and up to 2 COVID shots a year. So the number of doses the average kid gets at the end when they're turned 18, 19, somewhere in there, is 72 doses of vaccines.
I was going to say the number 72 is what I saw.
Yeah.
And we are far and above more vaccinations for our kids than any other country. Am I correct? That we're
Yes, that is correct. Europe is they are lower than us. They still have some, but they're not like we are.
yeah.
And so and then when they get older, I think it's let me just check right here real quick. For kids that are 7 to 18, they also say that the meningococcal B is also one where parents should decide whether this is right for their kids. Like when they go off to the dorm, and they go off to college, because I know we had to make that decision when my kids went to college. Like, do you want to give them this shot or not? Because if there's a break out in the dorm or in the university, your kids have to leave campus and blah, blah, blah. But it's so rare that, and then some of the other ones, they'll say all the children can get the vaccine. That's the fourth group. The fourth group of recommendations. They should get, some children should get, or all children can get this. And then fourth is parents, you talk to your healthcare provider and you decide. And then I believe Trump said something about it. He wanted the first year of vaccination spread out into like 5 different visits versus maybe 3 or 4 or something like that. But he wanted to make them go back to the doctor more so they could spread out injections. And, I would rather go safety with that than poking my kid 1 or 2 more times a year. Because a lot of people are like, oh, that means they have to have soreness at the site more. Well, you know what? I would do that for safety. So it all depends what camp you fall into. I mean, obviously, Robert Kennedy has done a lot of research in this area, and he's really heavily influenced Trump on this.
Now, aren't they stressing parental discretion here on these as well?
Yes, that's what he's saying parents should have a right. So what the CDC is saying, everybody should get these ones. Some should get these ones. All of them can get these ones. And then parents should talk to their doctors about this one. But I don't think that I think that they are beginning to take religious and or medical exemptions more often than maybe some of the states were.
Yeah. Wow.
So the good news is, as a parent or grandparent, right, you want to make the most informed decisions around some of these vaccines. And if you start digging into them, a few of them are like, they're so rare. There's more 4 out of 5 cases of polio is because of the vaccine and not from getting polio.
Really?
Yeah. So there's all these statistics that most people don't know about. And unless you really do the research, you really don't know, and so I would encourage parents, do research. At least this administration is giving a little more flexibility. Whether your pediatrician falls in line with that will depend on what kind of doctor you have.
Yeah. All right. Very interesting. There'll be a lot more coming on this, I'm sure.
Yes.
The more talked about. Very good. Good one, Debbie. David Copeland, what's on your mind, bud?
Well, last week we had a primary election in Kansas, and there was a state constitutional amendment on the ballot. And it made me think about someday we're going to be ratifying amendments, and we won't be doing it the same way. It'll go to the state legislatures or a convention of delegates from each state, and that's as Article 5 reads. But the idea of someday we're going to want to get the vote out beyond the COS grassroots, and when you look at the landscape, our political parties, at least the one I'm involved with, does not have any kind of infrastructure, grassroots infrastructure, to do that. And it's something that's a little concerning. This particular amendment was supported by conservatives, by the conservative legislature, supermajority. They needed 84, they got 87 votes in the House and 29 in the Senate out of 40. So they had the 2/3 majority. They could override a governor's veto on this to get it on the ballot. And yet, when it failed, with Democrats outpolling Republicans by 14%.
Is that right? What was the amendment briefly?
The amendment was to revise the way Supreme Court justices are selected
In the state.
in the state. The current system that we use is called the Missouri Plan, and it is a plan where the State Bar Association selects. They have a committee, and the lawyers put 5 people on the committee, and the governor puts 4 people on the committee, 1 from each congressional district. And that committee then nominates 3 people for vacancies, and the governor is allowed to select from that 3. And should the governor not do that within 60 days or try to select somebody else, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court can select one of those 3, and that's it. And so the amendment was to consequently, Kansas has a overwhelming conservative legislature, and what's it, 6 to 1 liberal Supreme Court.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's how we got the decision in Hodis versus Kobach, where the Supreme Court found a constitutional right of a woman to have bodily autonomy, and therefore abortion on demand is the law in Kansas, and they found that in our 1859 Constitution. It's amazing, but that's the way they interpreted. And they completely threw out natural law, which would trump, which would say, no, you may have bodily autonomy, but you don't have the right to kill an innocent.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, not to get into that, but the fact that the amendment had no natural constituency, there was no natural support for it, there was no organized support for it, and when people thought that it would be almost a no-brainer, that people would say, well, yeah, direct election of our justices allows us to have a say of who's on the Supreme Court, and it makes justices defend their record, and challengers can challenge the incumbent's record. And so we're going to, over time, it's going to become a self-policing court, very similar to all of our courts in Kansas, where the judges are directly elected. A bad judge can't survive because he's challenged. His poor decisions are brought to light, and the electorate has a chance to decide whether or not to retain him or elect a challenger. But just carrying this forward into the future, for referendums or constitutional amendments, there is no grassroots out there to support that. And even that, we had primaries in both parties for governor and U.S. Senate and all of our state House representatives. And so the candidates were out beating the bushes in their area, but the constitutional amendment was just an orphan. Mm-hmm. And I think our party should have been better organized and able to get the vote out, because the opponents did.
Do you think it's an educational issue, or is it strictly a party thing?
Well, I think at least here in Kansas, and it's probably true in a state like Indiana and Nebraska, which are basically red states, but with blue, some blue territory.
Right.
A lot of the Republicans, in fact, our suburban area here in eastern Kansas, we outpolled western Kansas. So the idea is, if you're running for governor, you can, or for president, Trump carried Kansas by 16 or 17 points. Everybody's going to vote, but for these issues that, like amendments and things like that, are you don't get the vote. We outpolled rural Kansas by 4 or 5 points, and if rural Kansas would have stepped up, it would have been a lot closer. So I'm thinking that as a party member, I'm actually a precinct committeeman. I think my precinct probably did better than most because I treated it like I do COS, and I was knocking on doors and talking to people and things like that. But as a state, I don't think we have the same kind of organization, and I would suspect you'd find the same thing in a lot of states. So, proud of the COS people that are invested in, involved in the party, and but I think we need to, as a party, we need to borrow some of the grassroots information, operation, structure that we have in COS and be better prepared for future elections.
I think an amendment issue just doesn't garner the attention that a candidate type of trying to elect an individual. Do you agree with that? It just doesn't.
Oh, I agree. One of these days, there's going to be, coming out of a Article 5 convention, there'll be legislators campaigning on their support for one amendment or another. And we need to be able to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think you've seen the national polling for COS. We've got high popularity for our platform. But it has to carry through all the way down to the voters, or they're not going to care about it when it comes time to choose a legislator.
Yeah.
To go to a ratification.
All right.
So
let's move on. That's a good one, David. I don't know. There's some work.
We're not going to solve it tonight.
No.
Yeah.
But it's and I think it's not just just in your state. I think that's like you said, that's a lot of places. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Gary, what's on your mind, bud?
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the honestly a sad and tragic situation with this Cambridge professor, Jason Arday. And he was the youngest ever Black professor at Cambridge. But from the time he was appointed about 3 years ago until recently, his academic record was scrutinized and questions raised about plagiarism, a lot of very serious questions. And in the academic world, plagiarism is just, it's a death sentence if it's shown that you committed plagiarism. And so that's why ultimately he resigned. And this kind of raises the issue of meritocracy versus DEI. And I think one of the things that Convention of States values is the whole idea of truth. And the world needs to operate on the basis of truth. When you start substituting spin for truth, you get a lot of bad results. And it was a bad result for this guy to be appointed to that. Some of the things on his resume, he claimed he was nonverbal until he was 11 years old. Apparently, people that knew him as a child said, oh, no, that wasn't true at all. If you heard him speak, he was very articulate, very glib. He was an excellent speaker. Just kind of raises questions. If the guy said he didn't speak till he was 11 years old, that seems very suspicious for a guy who's so articulate later in life.
Yeah.
When he became a professor. He claimed that he ran, I think, 30 marathons in 35 days, claimed other athletic things, and claimed that he had done fundraising and raised some $5 million for charity. The crazy thing is, there was no scrutiny of him when they were considering elevating him to this position. Now everybody is being critical and saying, well, this poor guy is being subjected to this, or he was subjected to this extraordinary level of, criticism and examination. And really, this is on Cambridge because they didn't do due diligence to look at this guy's record in the beginning. And it's not the fault of people today looking at his record and saying this guy committed plagiarism. It's the fault of Cambridge. It's a big black eye for them to say, hey, we promoted this guy. I mean, they were kind of patting themselves on the back. You assume for their DEI hire that this guy was made a full professor at a young age. And they dropped the ball. And they dropped the ball in such a way that it's very tragic. This guy now is apparently committed suicide. And it's not the people's fault who raised questions about him. It's the fault of Cambridge for not, honoring the idea of truth and meritocracy rather than, spin and DEI.
Wow. I think I remember hearing something about this in the news, especially when you said about the 35 marathons or something in 30 days, or that figures out to like 68 miles. It sticks in my mind. I don't know how many miles that would equal to, but
it would be extraordinary for anyone to claim they ran 30 marathons in 35 months, because you spend months training for that. And to say that he ran 30 marathons in 35 days and nobody said, hey, wait a minute, we should examine this guy's actual record. And so it's, I think from, a COS perspective, we value truth and we value honesty. And I think that a nation that is going to be successful has to operate on the basis of truth. Meritocracy is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And when you steer away from that to achieve other aims, you tend to steer into pathways of damage.
Yeah. That's a very sad case. And the guy just recently committed suicide. Is what you said? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jeez.
Wow. Okay. All right. Ken, have you come up with something?
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of the topics we have to cover sometimes that are things that are on our mind or on our focus are things that we hear, on a daily basis and stick with us. And a lot of them are heavily debated over time. I'm going to refer to, obviously, I think everybody's heard pretty much that in Massachusetts, Governor Maura Healey signed legislation removing the state's previous restriction on abortions. After 24 weeks of pregnancy, a change supporters say will help patients access care without leaving the state. The law is known as H5595, or the Prioritizing Patient Access to Care Act. And it eliminates the state's prior 4-part framework that had permitted post 24-week abortions only in specific circumstances, such as to preserve a patient's life or physical or mental health, or in cases involving a lethal or severe fetal diagnosis. And under the new law, the decision is left to the professional judgment of a physician. I won't go down the roads that would lead us when it comes to science and other areas. The bill was basically fast-tracked through the legislature after being released from the House Ways and Means Committee on July 22nd. And it was passed by both chambers in a flurry of activity in late July. What the law changed is basically, previously Massachusetts law allowed abortion during the first 24 weeks of pregnancy without restriction, but permitted abortions after that point only if a physician determined it was necessary to preserve the patient's life or physical or mental health, or because of a lethal fetal anomaly or a diagnosis indicating the fetus would not survive outside the uterus. The new law removes those specific statutory conditions, and instead of relying solely on a physician's professional judgment, it also eliminates a prior requirement that abortions performed after 24 weeks take place in a hospital. I did a little research on some figures, on some percentages, and again, this is a percentage that is not strictly on the diagnosis that the baby will die or is in will not survive the birth, but it's about 3%. 3% of pregnant women in the United States receive a prenatal diagnosis identifying a fetal anomaly, whether from a chromosomal issue or a structural abnormality affecting the heart, brain, limbs, or other systems. More broadly, congenital anomalies affect 3 to 5% of pregnancies annually in the United States and are leading cause of fetal and infant mortality. So when you look at the percentages of this happening, I think the thing that really struck me as I watched the video of this was this band of women that were surrounding the governor, and when she announced this, they were all applauding and gleeful, and it was like somebody just announced a party was going to happen, and this was something that was good. And I don't know. I looked at it and thought, here's something that is now allowing an abortion right on up until birth, basically.
I know. Yeah.
And totally takes away any of the, I don't know. When it says, leave it up to a physician, and of course, I often ask, in these situations, what is this really something that the parents are have full control over? I don't know, but really an area I think that's becoming just I don't know. To me, it's demonic, and it's I think everybody to a certain degree could look at something where you're preserving the mother's life. But when you look at the percentages of people and what I think the other figure that I saw that was odd was that in situations where these mothers are after 24 weeks and are making that decision, 80% of the women are going ahead and choosing to abort the baby. So it's not. It's something that I think is really a sad situation for our country.
I know, Debbie, you've done you did a presentation on this for us, showing us all the different abortion laws throughout the states now, ever since Roe versus Wade was overturned. So,
yeah. Yeah, and there's some, the anti-abortion people, the pro-life people are saying, sending it back to the states may not have been the best thing because all of your blue states are going to begin going that way. So there's 9 more states in addition to Massachusetts, and interestingly, Alaska is one of them.
Yeah, so I thought that was odd. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is they're saying that the majority of abortions are in the first 10 weeks. Anyways, it's like 85 to 90% of abortions are in the first 10 weeks because people know right away. I guess they'd make that decision, right away. Well, they could use the abortion pill. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
If they decide by 10 weeks, they don't have to have any kind of surgical procedure, nothing that is annoying or uncomfortable. And so a lot more people are doing it. So it's really interesting. Why are we so focused on the law after 24 weeks? And the thing that bothers me is if you look over the last several decades, it's just a slippery slide. It's like anything else. You give an inch, then they want a foot, right? And you give a foot, and then they want a yard.
Yeah.
So I'm sad to say that I feel like there will be more states that jump on board with this.
It's
particularly sad that it's Massachusetts, in that the Massachusetts Constitution was put together by John Adams himself.
Yeah.
He emphasized the duty of and the role of government is to protect the people's natural rights,
Yes.
including the right to life. That's the preamble of the Massachusetts Constitution. And I would say probably all 50 constitutions have similar wording, giving preeminence to our natural rights and the role of government to protect them. And now they're going in that direction.
Yeah, I think 5 out of the 10 states, there's actually 9 states in the district, but 5 out of 10 are on the East Coast or from DC on up the East Coast.
Well, the other thing that's really struck me too is in this post 24 weeks segment, you're now talking about a baby that is readily identifiable. And so where does the protection of that life come into play? I mean, if the government's role is to protect human life in general, where does the baby's rights come in? And you can make that argument. I can hear him making that argument again within those first 10 weeks or so, this or that, and what you believe there is what you believe. But we're talking post 24 weeks, and
Yeah.
there's so much that's already developed that this life is no longer deemed protected.
Yeah.
Well, upon conception, the total DNA is present.
Yep.
Everything necessary to build a gray-haired, bald-headed, bespectacled human being 20 or 70 years later
Yeah.
is right there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's not a matter of when does life begin. It's obvious it begins when all that DNA is present.
Mhm.
Well, the Bible talks about how, there's nothing new under the sun. Back then they worshiped Baal and Molech, and they gave their kids to the
They
god
did.
Molech and put him on his arms, and and that's infanticide, and you call it what you want, but and they never talk about the baby's rights. It's always the right of the mom. We're celebrating that moms can, you heard the lady talking in the article, and that's just a bunch of hogwash.
Yeah, we could go on for hours on this topic. I think it's a heartbreaking topic, quite honestly, and it really, like I said, we could talk about this for a long time. But we're going to have to move on. I mean, I agree with you. It's a sad. Well, it was a sad scene to see those ladies standing around her.
And I'd add one thing that, I mean, at this point, I think every one of these women that are looking to make this decision should be. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to. I shouldn't use the word "be forced to," but They should sit in and look at a video as to what actually happens when an abortion happens, and really look at the procedure. Just there's a number of different ways, and I think they're all just barbaric. So
They are, and I stand corrected. It's 10 states plus
10
the
states.
District of Columbia. Yeah, sorry.
All right. Okay, we're about out of time here. I just want to mention my topic was what caught my attention was the FBI going after these scam compounds. It's a term I never heard of, and I'm going to, as a matter of fact, I'm in the process of putting together a presentation on this. Evidently, in certain foreign countries, there are literally compounds set up where thousands of people are employed for the purpose of scamming Americans, as well as others, but predominantly Americans. And if any of you have ever gotten the email that saying that a package was, they tried to deliver a package to your house and they need more information from you, or you have an outstanding traffic violation, and if you just provide us your bank account, we'll take care of it, and we've all gotten these kind of emails, and I think that's just the scratching the surface. But evidently, this scamming has become a major activity around the world, and especially, have any of you been involved in scams? Yeah,
Unfortunately.
I think we've all been involved. Yeah. And obviously some of them can be very, very serious. But so this is something that caught my attention. I never heard of a scam compound. So we're going to learn some more about that as time goes on. So that's it. We're out of time for our In Focus segment. Gary, David, Debbie, thank you very much again.
Thanks for
for
having
your
me.
participation. We had two other guests that were supposed to join us tonight, and due to various circumstances, they had to cancel. So a special thanks to David and Gary for coming on tonight on such a short notice. So thanks a lot, David and
That's
Gary.
what state directors do.
That's right.
That's part of the job description.
Amen to that. Okay, everyone. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right, Ken. Good one. We went a few minutes over there, but that's okay.
Yeah.
All right, Ken, let's jump right in here. We've got John Ackerman has put together once again. Have you watched this particular series?
I have not gone through the whole thing. No, pieces
This
of it.
is very, very interesting. He's, of course, John's a minister as well as a college professor. So this is very educational, in my opinion. And so I'm anxious for us to hear this. This is John Ackerman on his soapbox, the number 7 versus the number 6. So
There you go.
here we go.
John Ackerman for Convention of States. Perhaps you learned the 7 colors of the rainbow with the mnemonic device Roy G. Biv, meaning red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Roy G. Biv. Each color occupies its own place in the spectrum of visible light, creating a visual progression from the longer wavelengths of red to the shorter wavelengths of violet. The rainbow has therefore become a widely recognized symbol of nature, diversity, and the full range of visible colors. Its 7 colors have been taught for generations and remains familiar to people around the world. As a Christian and a student of the Bible, I would add that in the Bible, the number 7 represents completion, perfection, and it's also used as the number of God. The pride flag, however, has only 6 colors. And in the Bible, the number 6 is seen as less than completion, less than perfection. In fact, it is seen as sinfulness. And it's often used as the symbol for humanity. And this will blow you away. The biblical number 666, which identifies the Antichrist, is often understood to emphasize humanness, frailty, sinfulness, lack of perfection, lack of completion, and a threefold attempt pretending to be godlike, but missing the mark all 3 times. 6, 6, 6, instead of the perfect number 7. And so the 7 colors of the rainbow remind us of God's love, God's purpose in creating the human race, and God's promise that he will never again destroy the world with a flood. And the 6 colors of the pride flag emphasize human sinfulness, human pride, human pretension to godlikeness, and humans falling short of their God-given potential.
You don't get any more plainer than that. Thank you, John.
I told him, I thanked him so much for that. That was, I never heard of that. That was, have you?
Well, I'm aware, obviously, of the promise that God made with the rainbow, that He wouldn't flood the earth, and so I'm obviously very familiar with that. The 7 colors of the rainbow, obviously. I was not aware of how the pride flag was arranged, though.
Yeah,
so that was informational and certainly interesting.
Very good, very good, very good. Yeah. John, thank you, John, for that. That was very good. Okay, well, once in a while, we have a video that gets submitted to us by a couple here in Indiana, Rick and Susan Lyon, and they put together these videos, and they're called Lyons Lyrics, where I think, if I got this right, Ken, that they provide the lyrics, and in most cases you provide the video, but I think you told me in this case they did the whole thing, right?
Yeah, we were a little short on, I was a little short on time, and Rick had this song ready to go, and so he went ahead and put together some video slides for it as well. So yeah, I mean, we got it, they got it done, and so we want to play that tonight, obviously.
All right.
For them, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So this is Lyons Lyrics, and the subject matter here is, did you tell me it's Convention of States?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get right to it then.
Okay.
From the halls of independence to the hearts of common hands, the dream lives on in every town across this blessed land. Our fathers gave us wisdom, carved it deep in freedom's door, a way to set our house in order just like they did before. in the hands of man. Article 5 was their gift for us today. A convention of states leads the way. We the people rise up and stand together. In faith and freedom's light shines forever. With the courage of those who paved the way, keeping the promise that our founders made that day. When our house needs mending, hear the call. By the people, for the people, can still fix it all. It's common sense and the love of right. We the people will turn it around. So stand up, let your spirit show. It's our America. Let the people know. No anger, no fear, just faith inside. Together we all can turn the tide. We the people rise to stand together. In faith and freedom's light shines forever. We'll reign in the reach of power and death, and honor the future our children get. We're not bound by party, we're bound by truth. With peace and love, we can build this world anew. So here's to Article 5, the gift they left in our trust, to keep our nation strong, to do what's right and just. With faith in God and eyes ahead, we'll keep the promise our father said. We'll balance the books, keep power in check, and bring term limits to protect from tyranny. We the people rise, our hearts united, in liberty's glow forever. We're guided by wisdom old and purpose true. The dream of freedom starts anew. We the people rise to stand together. In faith and freedom's light shines forever. We'll read in the reach of power and death, and honor the future our children get. So raise your voice, let the message roll. The Convention of States is the heart and soul. Stand for the rights that never die. Lift that torch and hold it high. We the people rise, shout it loud and clear. Convention of States, the time is here for faith, for freedom, for every land. Together we'll take that stand. We the people rise, standing tall and true. Balance in the books like we're meant to do. Reading in the reach, bringing honor back. Term limits, freedom. On the right track. Yeah, we the people rise. This is our time. Yeah, we the people rise. Stand proud and free. Keeping faith with history. Stopping from coast to coast under God's blue skies. We are Convention of States. We
Ken, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Again, Susan and Rick do a great job of lyrics, and of course, use some great tools in AI to be able to get some music out, and it's just a fantastic way of using it.
there was a little audio faux pas there at the end. Did you hear that? I don't know if that could be clarified, but we ought to play that from time to time on just on the program, just as a promo.
Yeah. We could look at refining a little bit. Like I said, Rick had to put it all together, so we could do some things with it as a promo and get it edited a little bit further.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fantastic. I tell you, I'm really impressed with the talents of those two individuals. That's and you, of course. But you didn't have anything. You didn't have very little to do with this one, right?
Not this one. No, not this one. Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Just excellent. I got to be sure to give Rick and Susan some
accolades. Yep.
Duos on this one. Yeah. Okay, let's move right on here. I caught up with Tim Heidenreich, who's doing our series on military uses for AI. And it's been very, very interesting. Tim, of course, is a retired military individual, and and he's identified something like 10 or so different areas where AI has and will have a major impact on how these different areas in the military are carried out. And so this is part 3, I believe, is the part that we're going to address this time. So I caught up with him just the other night, and we recorded this. So I thought let's get right into that. I believe this is on training as the main topic here, but let me bring that up here and let's get going with it here. Okay. Greetings, everyone. Dale Parrish, host COS Today. We're here again with part 3 of military uses for AI, and our COS volunteer here in Indiana, Tim Heidenreich, is going to present this part. So let's, without delay, let's bring Tim on. Hi, Tim.
Hello, Dale. Hello.
Good to see you again. Yeah. Tim is the Convention of States prayer coordinator for the state of Indiana, and been a volunteer for. You've probably been in COS about as long as I have, I would imagine. I think I came in about 2014, somewhere around there, 15.
Yeah, I came in 2016.
16, did you? Okay. Well, we've both been around a while.
Yeah.
So, Tim, as I've stated before, you're a retired military guy, and so we asked you to look into military uses for AI, since AI is just permeating all aspects of our life here, and thought this would be a good area for you. So tonight, Tim, you say you're going to be focusing on training and simulations. So, Tim, take it away.
Well, training is something that soldiers do all the time. It doesn't matter if you're a mechanic or you're a cook, if you're an infantryman. A big portion of your time is always due to training so that you can improve the task, your skills at doing the tasks that you need to do, and how your improvement in skills will improve the overall results of the organization. In peacetime or in wartime, we both need that. So training takes a lot of time and a lot of money to develop. And artificial intelligence will be able to improve that. Well, it already is. They've been using it for several years now. But I've got 7 main ways I want to talk about that tonight in the short time that we have. But the overall thing about it is it strengthens our training by making the simulations adaptive. They are data-driven, and they're much more realistic than what we've traditionally done with scripts. And they can incorporate a lot more complexity and responsiveness without requiring as many people to write it up write up the scenarios, write up the war games, and also be the umpires and the opposing forces at the same time. So that's it in a nutshell. But the first one of the things I'm going to talk about is that you can have adaptive scenarios that you can do during war, what we used to call war games or maneuvers or bivouacs. People call them a lot of that stuff. But they're exercises where you're actually exercising what you're going to do. And AI is able to make do away with predictable, repetitive training scenarios and use the same one over and over for every unit. Now you can have dynamic ones. And as part of what's going on, the AI can incorporate different things happening and react to when soldiers make decisions. So they can adjust just like the enemy does. You know, the enemy doesn't always do what you think they're going to do. What if you trained one way and then the enemy decides to do something else? You don't know how to do it. So in these training exercises that can be created with artificial intelligence, you can have personalized training programs if a unit has been weak in some area or something. And you can have scenarios that are just impossible to replicate in live training. For instance, if you're training medics, you can't shoot people and tell them, okay, now heal this, work on this wound, bandage this guy. But with these simulations, you can do that very realistically using something like virtual reality goggles or other ways they can do it. But anyway, it can make it a lot more adaptive than the old scripted ones that we used to do. Also, you can incorporate language and intelligence training into these things so that you might be learning a language or there might be translations in there. There's just a lot of things that the artificial intelligence can do that we didn't used to be able to do. So the overall point for that impact is it can improve our readiness of all of our units while it lowers the cost of doing the training, creating the training, umpiring the training. Does that make sense to you, Dale?
It does, Tim. Let me get myself back on here. I guess, in my time in the service, I participated in a lot of field exercises, and it never dawned on me that someone or some group had to organize this whole thing and I guess prepare a lot of documentation ahead of time, or at least back in my day, it would have been a lot of documentation. But I guess there had to be an objective of the training, and then all the different units involved in that training had to have their own specific orders and mission to accomplish. And I don't know. It's just when you really stop and think about it, it's a tremendous task. Obviously, the bigger the exercise, the greater the task. Quite honestly, it's just that simple.
Yeah, I used to work in an operations staff for a battalion, an artillery battalion, and we would have to do things like certify certain people for live fire. We'd have to write up these scenarios for nuclear weapons nuclear ammunition uploads, various things. And I used to spend weeks and weeks writing these things and getting the resources in place. Like, you got to have so many umpires that you designate to go out and check if the soldiers are doing it right. You got to have explosive, like flares or flashbang items or dummy grenades, that kind of stuff. People have to have dummy ammunition so that when they're shooting at the other side, they don't actually shoot them. There's a lot of resources that have to be planned for all that. Well, if you can do this with automated simulations, you can save a lot of time and money on that kind of thing. And think about pilots. Don't pilots use simulators to learn how to fly 747s and stuff? And all the aircraft that we have in the Army, we have more aircraft than the Air Force has. You count all the helicopters and everything. That's a lot of pilot training, and that's a lot of fuel costs and a lot of hours in the air. If you can use simulators, you can save a whole lot of that. And you can probably do a lot more let's say you want to teach a trainee how to react when the plane's going to crash. Well, you don't really want to simulate that with a real airplane or a real helicopter, but you can do it in a simulator because you know he's not going to hit the ground.
Right,
So
right.
you could just have more realistic training.
That's interesting. I was in a signal battalion, so I can imagine. You know, our task was to create communications between this area and that area and that area and so forth. So I'm sure that was our role in this whole in all of these exercises is creating and establishing communications. So very interesting.
Well,
very interesting.
Another aspect of this is with artificial intelligence, it can react to things that a scripted scenario can't, because you're only expecting the scripted scenario to go one way. So, for example, one time we were at Fort Leavenworth, we had an exercise. It was a several days war exercise, and on the first day, I was working in the tactical operations center, and we got this message that said one of our guys had seen hundreds of helicopters landing at a field north of us, and so a lot of times you'll take those reports and you'll say, well, you know, the guy's obviously he's blowing it out of proportion. Maybe he saw 20 or 30 and he got excited, and it's really not that many. So you wouldn't fire a very expensive weapon at that. But in our case, we said we're going to do it. So we fired one of our biggest theater level missiles at that, and it turned out that it was true, and it wiped out the whole Air Force from the enemy forces. And it wiped out all their helicopters.
Wow.
So the people that were running the exercise had to stop. We had to stop all the action. They had to rewrite the scenario and then start the war all over again. With artificial intelligence, it could have been built in. What if the guys do this, then do this? What if they do this, then do this? What if they do this? So artificial intelligence can act on the fly and advise something else you could do. You don't have to stop the whole thing.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. Another thing it could do is it can identify weaknesses and adjust the difficulty level. Let's say in your signal group that you were talking about, maybe your guys were really good at fixing broken radios or radios that got corrosion in the terminals or something, or they weren't very good. The exercise could be modified for different signal units to act differently depending on what they're good at and what they're weak at, because you want them to practice what they're weak at, not what they're good at. So you can do the changes much easier than rewriting entire scripts to get all the signal units trained to a certain level.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. Another one is you can now integrate complex cultural and social events into the context of your exercise. You know, you could tell artificial intelligence, I want you to generate a bunch of social media messages that might go up from the press if we start getting bad press. And we have to decide how we're going to react to that. Or you might say, who is it that's the mayor of the fire department in this town where we're going to go through there, because we got to go coordinate with this guy. There's just a lot of things that artificial intelligence could help you do that you can't necessarily do, or we haven't been able to do as well in the past when we just use human knowledge, because we have such limited human knowledge, but the artificial intelligence has, I mean, I don't even know how that works, but you know, you could have the names of everybody in all the towns in the country that you're going into. You could have them all loaded in there to help you find these people. Who's the mayor of this little village? Who's the fire chief? Who's the sheriff in this town? Who do I contact if I need to get to the local newspaper? I mean, there's just a lot of things you could do. And the military cares about those things. It's very important. You think back to the Vietnam War, for instance, all the bad press about baby killers and burning down villages and all that stuff. You could incorporate that into these scenarios, and it could be very quick, and it could happen in real time, so that it could help you keep up with those kind of things or prepare for them better.
That's interesting. You know, years ago you wouldn't have thought about or how you would integrate things like that into a simulation. I would imagine. I don't, but
Yeah.
this would, yeah.
And we didn't. I mean, look what happened in the Vietnam War. All the major news media was against the war, and look what they were doing to the voting public in America, and what it changed the way the politicians acted. Like stop the bombing of Haiphong and Harbor and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Even though they were holding our POWs. So it's getting more and more important as the social media continues to grow. And so AI can incorporate that stuff and help our new leaders to run into those scenarios and think about what they would do in advance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that brings me to one of the biggest, this is the one I would like to wrap up with. One of the most important things is learning how to team between a human and artificial intelligence. The idea is not to get artificial intelligence to be the decision maker. It's to get artificial intelligence to be able to give the decision maker the information that they need to make the best decisions. So what you're working on is teamwork. Just like in an Army platoon or a squad, you're always working on teamwork. Well, now with artificial intelligence, we're going to have to learn. This is another member of the team. They happen to have a lot of information. It used to be a commander would go to his S2 or G2, the intelligence division, and say, G2, give me an update on the weather. Give me an update on what the enemy doing right now. What's their fuel status? What's their ammunition status? Now you can go to AI and try to get that stuff. And maybe you'll get it better, and maybe you'll get it faster than you would have from a human being. So we need to train our warfighters to interpret and challenge and collaborate with artificial intelligence, but not just to blindly trust it for everything.
Very good, Tim. That's very good. Very interesting. Very interesting. I tell you, you're really opening up a lot of areas, uses of AI and for the military that I hadn't really thought about. That's very good. Very good.
The whole purpose of training is to. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just, when you're ready, I wanted you to comment on what we're going to look at next in part 4. Have you thought about that?
Next part.
Pardon me?
Yeah. Wait a minute. I got to scroll up here and look at my.
Okay.
Okay. We're gonna talk about medical support.
Oh, okay. Time. Very important. Very important. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes have a big need for that. But let me just finish up with one more thing about this, Dale.
Okay.
The whole purpose of I say Army because that's what I'm used to, but the whole purpose of training in any of the militaries is to increase our readiness for war and to help us be able to avoid war because we're so strong rather than welcome war and see how well we're doing. So this artificial intelligence and human teaming will build readiness for future battlefields. And you know what we're going to find there? We're going to find that the enemy's got it too. So we have to be better at teaming with our artificial intelligence than they are at teaming with their artificial intelligence. So that's that pretty much covers the subject I had in a quick 16 minutes.
Yeah, you did a good job.
It's a big subject. We just skimmed the top of it.
Yeah, you did a great job. Great job. Tim, thank you very much. And we'll be looking forward to the next part pertaining to the medical area of our military. So, Tim, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, see you next month. Thanks, Dale.
Yeah. Well, I hope you found that very interesting. I certainly did. Tim, at every part, he is just, with regard to this topic, in my opinion, he's just opened up my mind to a lot of these areas that I never thought about, and the use of AI. It's just very, very fascinating, and something that no doubt, this country needs to be on top of and be the best at using AI in our military. So, folks, hope you enjoyed that and look forward to our next part with Tim Heidenreich. So, thank you and good night. Tim does a good job on that, doesn't he?
Great stuff, and it's always interesting to hear some of his background experience with it. So with his military service, so yeah, as well as yours. So yeah.
I mean, stuff that you wouldn't think about normally, but AI is going to play a big role. All right. Well, as usual, David Punt, state director in Minnesota, sends us some audio clips that he does for his radio station. And we play them on here. They're called Dave's Daily Dose. So this one ought to be an interesting one tonight. They're always interesting. So he has a way of putting together some interesting things. So without further ado, let's get to Dave's Daily Dose for this evening.
Okay.
Speaking of voting, Michigan Democrat Elissa Slotkin had a speaking gig at the Indiana Democrat Convention recently, last month actually. Breitbart News found a video of Slotkin's speech, and she was getting lots of applause. So it looked like she was doing pretty well. And the folks in the audience seemed like they understood what she said. What did she say? Well, she said if Trump gets his way and the SAVE Act is passed by both House and Senate, it will be harder for Democrats to win elections. That's a quote. Huh? Making sure only United States citizens vote is a bad thing for Democrats? Can that be what she meant? This is Dave's Daily Dose on BrokenRoadRadio.com. I'm David Allen Punt. Fox, PJ Media, Breitbart, and Huckabee Post have all run the story, to my knowledge. Also, Yahoo News and MSN, CBS, NBC, ABC, and NPR are probably waiting for her to explain herself a little bit better. The SAVE Act has had a couple of different applications, but basically it says that you have to be able to prove you're a U.S. citizen to vote in U.S. elections. That doesn't seem all that controversial to me. Maybe what I have to produce to prove my citizenship would be problematic. Passport? Check. Driver's license with picture? Check. Military veteran card with picture? Check. I think I'm good. So what does Elissa mean? And the gleeful Democrats in the audience, what do they mean? At one time in our history, you had to have white skin and own property to vote here. As years went by, voting was allowed if you were female and then black. I guess it was black first, then female. Then over 18 years old, didn't have to own property, didn't even have to have a job or own anything. The Supreme Court recently took some of the restrictions away from the Voting Rights Act of 1965, LBJ's big accomplishments besides Vietnam. So you didn't even have to be able to read and write in order to vote, even in English for voters who don't speak that language. So what does she mean? Nothing in the list of things mentioned in my AI-assisted answer says anything about being a Democrat. Nothing that says you had to be Republican or Independent or Green or Marijuana Now or Whig or Federalist or Reform or the little green men from Mars Party. Your vote wouldn't count. Only if you said you were a Democrat, your vote wouldn't count? First of all, how would anybody know unless you said something? Wait a minute. Is Ms. Slotkin saying that Democrats can only win if they have help from China or Russia or Vietnam or Cuba? They can only win if they cheat? Really? Obviously, I don't understand what she said or what she really means. I'm David Allen Punt.
Two two good commentaries tonight. I think I think we need to bring on John Ackerman and Dave and just let them battle it out. I think we'd have an interesting night.
That's a good thought. That's a good thought. We'll have to pursue that. All right. Well, another series that we've had going on for some time now is called Meet the Founders with Larry Hudson, and this is the 6th founder that he has researched and is going to start presenting to us. Now, of course, each founder, sometimes it takes 4, 5, 6 parts to cover the founder. This one is probably, he thinks, going to take 4. But he's doing John Adams now. He did Sam Adams, the previous founder that he researched and reported on. This one is John Adams. So I sat down with Larry and we did part 1 here on John Adams. So let's get right into it then. Okay. Greetings, everyone. Dale Parrish, host COS Today. Well, we're going to start another episode of Meet the Founders with Larry Hudson. And Larry is going to, the founder this time is going to be John Adams. And John will mark the 6th founder that Larry has researched and presented to us. So anxious to get started. So without further ado, let's bring Larry on and get going here. Hi, Larry.
How you doing, Dale? Good to see you.
Good to see you, bud. Larry, this is founder number 6, part 1. Okay. So we'll keep the nomenclature straight here. No problem. So John Adams. All right. Well, in the last episode that we did, the last part, we finished up with the founder, Sam Adams. And I see from your outline that you're going to take a look at his cousin now, as I remember, John Adams. I was thinking he was a different relative than, but he was a cousin, right? John was a cousin.
Yeah, second cousin, actually. About 10 years difference in age.
Okay. Well, I think most of us are more familiar with John Adams, but
yeah.
I'm prepared to hear some facts about him that I'm sure we don't know about. So let's get started.
Well, I thought I'd start with, like I have the others, start back when he was born and take you through his early years, education, and that sort of thing.
Okay.
He was born in, of all places, the Massachusetts Bay Colony. I think it was 1735. Yeah, 1735. In a town called Braintree. Today it's Quincy, Massachusetts. Parents was John Adams Sr. and Susan Boylston. She came from a very wealthy family. John Sr. was not so wealthy, but it makes him a junior, I guess you could say. And it was a title, I guess. I've never seen junior behind his name in anything I've read, but he did use that title until his father passed away. His father was called Deacon Adams, and he died, 1761, looks like. So he was about, I guess, 26. Anyway, his father, John Sr., was, interestingly enough, they called him Deacon Adams. He was a deacon in a congregational church. He was a farmer, first off, and a part-time cordwainer, which I had to look up. And
say that again. I see that in your notes here. I was going to ask you about cordwainer.
Yeah, cordwainer, no longer used, obviously. That's a shoemaker. Okay, as opposed to a cobbler, who is a shoe repairer. So, we're talking, the 1700s here. shoes were made by individuals. They weren't made in a factory. So when you got shoes, you had a craftsman make your shoes for you, and he was called a cordwainer. They were made, from new leather, if you will.
Okay.
So,
Okay. That's
as
interesting.
opposed to a cobbler.
Never thought about that, but that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. He was also a lieutenant, interestingly, in the local militia. It was a selectman, I think, for the Braintree the local Braintree City Council, if you will. And
this is John's father was.
Yeah, his father, and
okay.
A dreaded tax collector.
Okay.
Yeah. John was the firstborn, obviously, a junior of 3 boys. And interestingly, I found he was a newborn that was baptized by no other than the Reverend John Hancock, the father of the same John Hancock that Adams is going to serve with, later on in Congress in later life. Both of his younger brothers would serve in the militia in the Revolutionary War. They were both officers. The youngest, I think, was a captain, and he would die in that war, not of battle wounds, but of dysentery. And John, who we'll find out, I'm going to not stress it, but John really never served as a soldier in the war, but he wanted to be a soldier. He wound up being a legislator and a statesman in the Revolutionary War, but he never actually served in combat in the war. When he was in college, he wrestled with what he might do, and I read that he, see if I can find my quote here. I longed more ardently to be a soldier than I ever did a lawyer, which is what he winds up becoming. He loved his father, called his father the most honest man he ever knew. So I think he was his idol. Okay.
Well, we've already talked about what a cordwainer is. So there's no use. We don't need to go over that again.
No.
But let's go on to his education. What kind of education did John Adams have?
Well, I guess you could say his formal education. I'm looking at my timeline. Started when he was 6, like we do today, pretty much. But he went to what was known as a dame school.
All right, here's another new term. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, as the name kind of implies, it was conducted in a teacher's home. Typically, it was a woman. She took a number of kids in on a daily basis and taught them primarily from the New England Primer. You remember that?
Yeah. Well, hey, this is homeschooling. Then, isn't it?
Homeschooling. Well, more of it's homeschooling than you might think, because I think the following year he then went to what was called the Braintree Latin School, and where he had a tutor that taught him, and his studies, were pretty traditional Latin. They studied rhetoric, they studied logic, mathematics, that kind of thing. A liberal arts approach to education. He didn't do well in that school, however. He really detested his headmaster, as I read, and it was often disinterested, often a truant, skipping school to, as he said in his diary, hunt or fish.
Really?
It was much more a fun thing to do. And his excuse was that he wanted to be a farmer or to be a soldier, and that going to school just really wasn't all that necessary. Of course, his father, thought otherwise. He did go, I guess, and change his headmaster. I got him a different headmaster, put him in a different school. I'm not sure how that came to pass, but he did start to respond more positively, and he actually became more eager to learn at still a pretty young age.
I see. Okay. Well, you mentioned earlier that he went on to college. He did go on to college. What college did he attend, and what did he study while he was in college?
Well, it was the Ivy League, as you might suspect.
Yeah.
Let's see, 1751, he enters Harvard. So he's about, I don't know, 15, 16 years old. His father, of course, expected him to become a minister. When you go to those schools like Yale and Harvard, Harvard was quite small in 1751. Faculty was 7. Had an enrollment of about 100 students. John's class, I think, numbered 27. He was granted a partial scholarship. I never really found out why that occurred. Maybe on his mother's side, she had some influence. But he also liked the girls. He's a writer to start with. He loved writing early on. And so he keeps a diary. And a lot of what I've come to learn about him personally comes from his diary. And he said in one of the quotes from his diary was he liked to, be in the society of young ladies. I'm not sure what that means, but
wow, yeah.
He discovered this yearning to read and to write. Was in school, but he did earn an AB, what we would call today a Bachelor of Arts from Harvard.
Okay.
Took him 4 years. During the last year that he was there, I read where I think McCullough says he, quote, found some people told him he had some faculty for public speaking and that he would make a better lawyer than a preacher. I'm not sure why that would be important because I would think both are public speakers, but nevertheless, that's what he was told. And when the French and Indian War started, which I think was 54, during that time frame, he was in college, but he, as I alluded to earlier, apparently felt real guilty that he was the first in his family not to be in the militia as an officer. And he's reported to have, again, said in his diary, I think I maybe told you this, I longed more ardently to be a soldier than I ever did to be a lawyer. Well, that was in his diary. So instead of pursuing the law, he took a job teaching. He still wasn't really quite certain what he wanted to do. So he took a job teaching, I guess, in what would be, I don't know if they considered them high schools. It was in Worcester, Massachusetts. He did that for about 3 years. And was during that time that he decided, no, I got to become a lawyer. And again, kind of egotistical here, he says, this is from his diary. Instead, he wanted to seek prestige, crave honor or reputation, and more deference from his fellows. And that he was determined to be, quote, a great man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, as you noted, his father had expected him to become a preacher.
Yeah.
And obviously that didn't happen. So how does he set this straight with his father? How does that happen?
Well, during those teaching years in Worcester, he started actually studying law he kind of interned under a prominent lawyer there in Worcester. And once he got on this quest, he sat down and decided he better write his father a letter telling them why he was not going to pursue the ministerial role and he was going to go in to become an attorney. He wrote his father, I find lawyers to be noble and gallant, but among the clergy, nothing but pretended sanctity of some absolute dunces. And so he basically told his father in no uncertain terms that while he respected him, he made up his mind to, pursue the law and not the ministry. So he spent another, I think 3 years. He got a master's of arts and was eventually admitted to the Massachusetts bar, practice law.
So he thought they were dunces, huh? That's just interesting. That's pretty straight talk. You mentioned earlier that he liked the girls.
Yeah.
but there's no mention yet of any particular girls in his life. We all know that he eventually marries Abigail Adams.
Yeah.
But did he have any other female relationships?
Well, I found one at least. His first love apparently was a girl named Hannah Quincy. I don't recall her age. I'm sure she was a teenager. But he was smitten by her charms. The story goes that he was at a party with friends. I don't know if they were drinking or not, but he decided he was just going to propose marriage to her, but he got interrupted in some way, shape, or form, and the moment was lost. And it was interesting. Within a year, Hannah was married to one of his closest friends.
Oh.
So, interestingly, he wrote again in his diary. Where I can find it here. He was glad to escape. He was glad to escape being delivered from dangerous shackles. He went on, I think, a year later and met Abigail Smith. And he wrote, but he wrote in his diary that he found her less desirable than Hannah, and that she and her sisters weren't very frank with him or very candid. He'd met her really through another friend of his. I think his friend was courting one of her older sisters, and they were the daughter of a Reverend Smith. And I don't know if he knew, but I found out just today. I was reading some other material. She was actually his third cousin on the Boylston side of the family. And but as I said, he wasn't very impressed with her, nor was she, I guess, impressed with him at the beginning of things. But things changed with time, and they began seeing more of each other. And despite the misgivings of her mother, because she thought that she was marrying down, and he'd been advised, I guess, somewhere along the line when he was studying to become an attorney, he was interning with a more elderly attorney, a revered attorney, not to marry early, not until your studies were done. So this courtship with Abigail lasted 5 years.
Really? Wow.
Before they became husband and wife. I think he was 29 and she was 20. I think she was 20. So there's quite an age differential there. And as I said, her mother wasn't happy. She thought Abigail was marrying well below her station. They both loved books. They both loved writing. They soon began a correspondence that, you're well aware of it, as am I. It survives to this day, and books have been written about it. They both kept diaries, and so their correspondence is readily available to anyone who wants to read it. Turns out that she was steadfast through their marriage. She was really a partner. He truly valued her opinions. They were always frank, even often contradicted his. Turns out she was very, very intelligent, very strong-minded, and a bit witty. She was, as I read with McCullough here, she was his Diana, the Roman goddess, and he was her Lysander, the Spartan hero.
Oh, okay. All right.
I
saw that in your notes, and I wondered what the heck was that about. Okay. I see that. Okay. Well, I know they had a son, John Quincy Adams. Now, it's interesting, the middle name Quincy. Did that come from Hannah Quincy, his first love, do you think? Or
I don't know. I'll have to look at that.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's just
I think that's
a rabbit hole. That's a rabbit hole we won't go down right now.
Yeah, I think it's a family name, but I'll look, and we'll maybe before we start the next segment, we'll talk about it. If it's
but anyway, they had a son, John Quincy Adams.
Yeah.
And of course, he went on to become president of our country.
Right.
as did his father. So, did they have any other children?
Yeah, they had actually they had 5 children in their, I think, 54-year marriage. 2 girls, 3 boys. Girl, I think the first girl was stillborn. The second girl died very early, less than 3, I think, maybe even 1. One did survive to adulthood, but died of cancer in her life. All 3 of their sons, John, we know, becomes a lawyer. The other 2 do as well. They all go to Harvard, the boys. But the boys were, the 2 younger brothers were largely unsuccessful. In fact, they both become alcoholics later in life and die young. The first, I think the youngest son died in his 30s, and I don't know, the older one was in his early 50s maybe, but they didn't do anything in life. It was only John that becomes a founding father. John Quincy, who goes on to become, I think, the 6th president of the United States, was successful, traveled with his father, got a lot of training with John when John was an ambassador overseas. He became a minister, I think, to Prussia, to the Netherlands. He was a Secretary of State. Also, he was elected to the United States Senate. And of course, he becomes president eventually, as you mentioned, under James Monroe.
Okay. So how did Adams gain public attention? Moving away from his law practice?
Yeah, he moves away from his law practice and gets involved in politics. It happened during the opposition to the Stamp Act. And I can't remember, the Stamp Act is, oh gosh, where is it? Anyway, that's where it happened. You can remember, I think, when we talked about Sam Adams, the act was viewed as a tax on the colonies that was passed without their consent.
Right.
Resulted in, violent resistance in some cases. Adams jumped into the fray, not being violent, but by quickly authoring what became known as the Braintree Instructions. So they were written from Braintree, where he was living, and they were in response to this act. It was a letter, actually, that was sent to the representatives of Braintree that in the Massachusetts legislature and quickly adopted by that legislature. Basically denied 2 fundamental rights guaranteed to all Englishmen. And we've heard these before. Number 1, you can't be taxed without your consent. And number 2, you have to be tried by a jury of your peers when charged with an offense. And people were being charged for violating the Stamp Act and were being hauled up in these courts of British officers, and the jury, they didn't have a jury from their peers. So they felt both of these were really offensive. They were, as I said, unanimously approved by the local legislature. Ultimately got published throughout Massachusetts in the Gazette, the Boston Gazette, the Massachusetts Gazette. I think I read where over 45 towns across Massachusetts adopted them. Adams started using a pen name, Humphrey Plowjogger, I guess is the way I would pronounce it. Ploughjogger. Humphrey Plowjogger, when he wrote against the act. One of his articles even made it to London, across the Atlantic, and got printed in the London Chronicle, I think, a year or so later. He strongly opposed the act in writing, but I think it's important, since we just covered Sam Adams previously. Sam tried to get him involved in some of his actions with the Sons of Liberty, and early on, John never became a member of the Sons of Liberty, and he rebuffed Sam in doing what Sam wanted him to do. He preferred to stay apart and do it from the pen.
All right, Larry. We're out of time for this segment, and I see in your notes that we're getting ready to get into the Boston Massacre.
Yeah, that's
So
pretty famous for John.
yeah, why don't we pick it up at that point?
Okay.
On the next part, is that okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. So once again, very, very interesting. Thank you very much on this. I'm getting the Adams is all mixed up here, I think. But,
I know. Sam Adams, John Quincy Adams.
Yeah.
It's kind of a dynasty, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. Very interesting, though. Very interesting. So, Larry, thank you a great deal. Always interesting. We'll look forward to John Adams Part 2.
Part 2.
Very, very near. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Larry.
You bet. We'll see you later.
Yeah. Well, folks, that's a wrap on John Adams Part 1. And again, brought by Larry Hudson. And Larry just does a great job for us on these Meet the Founders. So look forward to Part 2 coming up. And that'll be it for this evening. Have a good night, everyone. Good night.
John Adams. Yep. Another good start there from Larry. It's always educational and interesting.
Always does a good job, Larry. Always
Yep.
does a good job on these.
Yep.
I mean, the guy must read an awful lot.
Yeah.
Well, you see his library behind him.
Yeah.
That's a real library, I think. I don't think that's a virtual background.
No, that's his library. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, he does a lot of good work for us. Okay, well, let's start wrapping things up here tonight, Ken.
All right.
Always want to show and warn everyone, not warn, but alert everyone that if you're trying to find our broadcast, the best way is to find our YouTube channel, American Patriots for Convention of States. So search on our YouTube channel, American Patriots for Convention of States. And there you'll find, and I think, Ken, you're going to put a link up there for everyone to get, right?
I'm looking for that link right now. Yep.
So the YouTube channel will, of course, have our current broadcast and have as well past broadcasts if there's something that you wanted to see that we've done in the past. So once again, American Patriots for Convention of States. Now, if you have any questions about tonight's broadcast, comments, questions, drop us an email, raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. Okay? I just wanted to mention here, before we sign off tonight, next week, the 24th, will be our COS Perspective segment. And I see I've misspelled something there, Ken. And I can't seem to, there it is. I think I got a
Always at the time that's most inconvenient. That's for sure.
F in there that I shouldn't have in there.
You still got tourism wrong, but that's okay.
Okay, I'll just say it. Birth tourism, citizenship by design. That's what I'm trying to say.
There you go. Yeah.
That's what we're going to be talking about next week on our COS Perspective segment.
Now, you should have had AI do that for you, Dale. It would have been okay.
Well, I don't know how to do that. Okay. All right. Ken, any comments or questions from viewers that we need to address before we sign off here?
Nothing we need to address. No, it was a pretty interesting night. Had a few people way back talking about entitlement, but that was on our In Focus segment. So,
okay. Well, folks, that's our program for tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it. We've certainly enjoyed bringing it to you. Had a lot of challenges that we had to face this evening, but as usual, we I think came through with everything. So
that's what keeps things interesting and fun, Dale.
You know, that is the truth. It's always interesting. I'll tell you, Ken, when was the last time you upgraded your telephones?
It's been a while.
Well,
I got off the kick of trying to do that every other year. And plus it got just so expensive that I was like, okay, I really don't need to be upgrading my phone.
I don't know what caused me to bring this up at this point in time, but
I don't know.
my wife and I just we're still going through the process of upgrading our phones. We have iPhones, and we were on our daughter's account, and we got off of her account, created our own account, upgraded our phones, and we're still in that process. And we've spent over 4 hours trying to get this done. And I
so obviously you jumped a bunch of previous updates.
Yes. I had a 13. These are iPhones. I had a 13. Now I have a 17. My wife had a 9.
Oh wow!
And now she's jumping to a 16. So she's got a learning process to go through. But I just have one word: horrendous. The process has been horrendous.
A lot of changes, yeah.
Yes. And it's not over yet. I don't know what got me off on that.
I don't know either.
I don't. Well, when you said changes and you know, with our program, we are faced with changes all the time.
Yeah.
And anytime I think anytime you're dealing with technology as a main part of your effort, there are going to be changes. There are going to be challenges. So same way with upgrading your telephones.
Oh yeah.
So quite a process. Anyway, that's it for tonight, folks. We'll let Marengo Mike close us out and say good night. So everyone have a good evening. Be sure to be back with us next Monday, same time, 7 p.m. Thank you.
Marengo Mike here with a reminder of the importance of this year as we continue to grow the grassroots army of volunteers and the mission of using the Constitution to fix the ills of our government. Use the QR code if you haven't signed the petition and consider using your talents to become an active volunteer. Thank you and God bless.